Welcome back to the Kingsway podcast.
I haven't jumped in on one of those in a while.
Yeah, that's good for you. Yeah. You're quicker than I remembered.
Welcome to the podcast.
Ryan, it actually happened. We did get some snow. I think we got about half of what they promised.
Maybe
a little bit more.
It was a good amount.
It wasn't nothing.
Yeah,
Let's be honest. Let's be honest.
It was perfectly powdery and at least 5 to 6 inches or so where I was in Miller.
I know closer to 7 to 8 here.
Yeah, I know it was at least that because in order to get out of my driveway, we don't have a shovel, but I have really good boots and like pants and whatever. So I just kicked a path for one tire and then salted it.
It was probably the lightest snow I've ever felt.
So powdery because it was well below freezing.
I went to shovel the driveway. I felt like I was shoveling a cloud.
Yep.
But the motion still hurts because you still have to bend down and do that. Did you know the number one cause of heart failure in the winter is shoveling your driveway? That's the number one cause in America for a heart attack. Because you're just laying on your couch eating cookies and soup and whatever, and then all of a sudden you have to get up and bend over and do a bunch of work. I should be clear about that. It's the number one cause of men's heart attacks.
Yeah.
Because they're out there pridefully like, I need to do this.
I did that like 2 days in a row. Sherman was like, are you okay? And I was like, don't talk to me till the snow's out of here. I'm a different man. The snow changed me.
I felt the tension of it. Like I went out there like, I don't really want to sweat. And then by the end I was pouring sweat. Yeah. Just like, I'm going to get this done.
I might be sweaty, but you should see the other snow. Yeah.
Well, we did it was fun. I have younger kids. And so watching them try to go out in like negative 10 degrees to go sledding and like want to play and like trying to explain what frostbite was. But hopefully I'm either hopeful today or tomorrow we're going to go sledding a little bit and have some fun. Hopefully the like snow will tighten up a little bit and it'll turn it into.
That could be great.
I did hear that in honor of Cool Runnings, the Jamaican bobsled team did make the Olympics this year. So I kind of blew my mind.
Jamaica, we got that bobsled
team.
I don't know the rest of it. I just know that.
We got the one Doris and the one Junior.
That's what they said. I was too busy vibing with that every time I watched that movie. I think the last time I saw it was maybe 5 years ago. And then the other 10 times I saw it were between age 4 and 8.
It's so crazy. Like I put Beauty and the Beast on the other day, and that was made in 1991.
Yeah. And
Cool Runnings is 92. So like there's just a level of like, I'm like that.
One of Hans Zimmer's best works.
It is Cool Runnings. Long time ago. And I hate saying that, but it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, to distract from what we're really getting to.
Yes.
We put our heads together. All right, not really. I feel like we've been trapped inside for the last 3 days. And so
and of the dangers of inside, one of them for me is dust and dog and cat dander and whatever. And so I'm on some allergy stuff. Another one is like I didn't move around enough, or like, we got to do projects.
I made it to the gym yesterday. Risked my life to get there.
Yeah. Another danger of being inside for this long, and especially at this very moment in human history in the United States.
The algorithm.
The algorithm.
Yep.
The scary monster back there. Now, there's a couple things to say about this. What we're talking about today, and you'll see it from the title, is like politics and Jesus and political engagement and all that kind of stuff. But the reason it seems so present right now is because of the algorithm and politics and what's happening on the algorithm. And so, like, I don't want to downplay any event.
No.
Real things have happened.
Real people have been hurt.
We know about them, and we know about 20 people's opinions about them way before we would have found out about it, like 30 years ago, back when Beauty and the Beast and Cool Runnings came out. Like, we would have heard about it on the nightly news and then had time to process it and think about it and talk with our friends and our pastor and our neighbors. And then like maybe another story will come around later about it. But right now it's like, I'm just sitting on my couch getting mad about things that are happening and people's opinions. So if you're watching this a year in the future, the thing that just happened is, at least on my algorithm, is that ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement, not the snow outside. They've been going city to city, and they were in Minneapolis, and they have in a week or two shot and killed 2 American citizens.
Yep. And it's just been a crap storm, man. I mean, it's been everywhere. And I'm not a politically charged person normally, but I told you I feel like recently the algorithm, I don't know if it's just my age or if it's just where it's at in like its effectiveness, but it feels like just
or if it's being inside.
Yeah, it's just constantly rage bait. Like there's not really any informative stuff. It's more just clips and videos trying to get you angry. Not really leading too much other than just your mental frustration, if that makes sense. Like there's not really leading to anything that you can and there's things to do. I'm not trying to say, but it doesn't naturally always attach to those streams of like influence, change, rhythm. It's just like, hey, you should be mad about this.
So there is news. There is stuff happening. There are events in the world. And they do matter. And there is stuff we should do about it. But also, the algorithm that's telling you about it is to make everything economic, is a money-gaining platform. And it is a leech sucking time off of you so that it can sell advertisements and get revenue and whatever. And so, like, even if the specific creators aren't that way, the platforms, Facebook, Instagram, X, Threads, all of them, all the above.
And it's justifiably.
They all exist there to get you. So there, I talked about this before on something else, that like 300 to 400 years ago, everybody had an empire. Every country was an empire. That's a little oversimplistic, but a lot of European countries were. And so like even talking today about the UK and who's part of the Commonwealth, India and Australia and whatever, that used to be called the empire. And then a lot of those countries gained their independence, but had some weird loose thing about like the queen or whatever, but we're kind of mad about it. But like there's all these remnants of empire because people were trying to conquer land. They were trying to conquer land that had never been conquered. Although the Native Americans were here, you can argue if you think that's conquering the land or owning it or whatever or not. Native Americans themselves would generally say nobody owns anything. We just kind of walk around. And we belong to each other, but this land doesn't belong to us. We have whatever. But anyway, Europeans are on this conquest thing, and they're conquering other people's land, and they're conquering other nations' land, and then unexplored lands and whatever. And we kind of ran out of land. And so now the smartest people in the world are being hired by the most powerful groups in the world to conquer your time and attention.
And how they're doing that, and I think it's a great way to introduce this.
We're not a part of that. Please give us all your money. But we're not, I'm just kidding.
No. One of the ways that they choose to do that is obviously like creative options that bring dopamine. So little video games or little things that you watch or do. This is not a knock on it. It's just one way of getting your attention. It's why YouTube Shorts and TikTok and Instagram Reels have taken over. It's because in 15 to 30 seconds, they can gain your attention, make you smile, make you laugh, make you cry, potentially
make you mad,
make you angry. And it is a constant thing where to the level of like, I have to make my kids watch a movie because they're not used to, even though they don't have social media yet, even though they don't have access to a ton of those options yet, they still have that dopamine loop so closely tied. So here's why I think this is so strenuous for me, so frustrating, but also so easy to fall into. When you get angry, I want you to think about how angry you can get without getting on social media. So, for example, one of the issues that I have that can sit with me is like I am a little older, and sometimes when I go to tie my shoes, I can't tie it the first try. And I've mentioned this to you. It's like my fingers forget what they're doing, and then I try like once or twice, and then it like won't do it quite right, or it won't get quite tight enough. And I like undo it, and I like stare at my shoe. And it's like this conviction of like, I am not this old. I am not this, like I am coordinated, but yet I will think about that and dwell on that for longer than I should. And I'm not a naturally angry person, not naturally frustrated. Why the algorithm works this way is because, like you said, corporations, people that are smarter than us, but know the brain and know how the brain works, I don't think necessarily are just trying to make the whole world angry, but are trying to gain attention and then stickiness. They're trying to get it to stick. And they know that if you dwell on something that frustrates you without being able to change it, without being necessarily able to make it go away or to make it happen or stop, that stickiness, every time you see it again or it's brought up, brings attention back to that thing. And it's like tar. It sits in your brain. It sits in your heart. It sits in a place. Now, why that's good is because we need to change. And sometimes when things are bad in our life, that stickiness, when it's in real life with real tangible things, with real things that can be done, it's healthy. And it's good.
So like, it's not, what we're trying to say, to be clear, is it's not wrong to be angry.
No.
But it is unhealthy, because wrong sounds like you're the wronger, you're the bad person. But really, they've designed all these things to be so addictive that it's more like you're the victim. I don't want to say everybody's a victim of everything, but like through your own choices, but also how scientists have made this thing so addictive. Like, you are partially to blame, but partially the victim of how addictive the smartest people in the world made this stuff. And so, like, it's the same thing as like sports betting gets more popular. That story that you told me, I think, about how casinos, especially slot machines, used to be rigged to make you almost win. Like some large percentage of the time, 80% of the time.
More than 50, which is illegal.
Yeah, it's illegal because it's too addictive. That's crazy. Not so like harder drugs are illegal, not just because they're addictive, but also because they're detrimental.
And you don't realize you're taking a drug. You're not actually taking it. It's coming through your eyes.
And so the same kind of brain science behind that is behind why these platforms will incentivize. And again, I don't think it's necessarily creators. All creators, by virtue of being a creator, you're a bad person.
No.
But creators are following trends. Trends are set up and incentivized or de-incentivized by apps and platforms.
And that's what
they're incentivizing doing this highly addictive thing. How your thumbnails look on a video, or just that you're on Reels and how quickly it moves between cuts and how angry you can get and whatever. So like anger and fear are not evil emotions, but they're being used to make something addictive to an unhealthy level the same way. This is a minor tangent. The same way that like MSG is not a bad ingredient. It isn't necessarily carcinogenic. It doesn't like cause cancer. It isn't unhealthy for you in any way. It's kind of a salt alternative, but it's got glutamate, which has an umami, satiating, savory flavor. MSG isn't evil, but Frito-Lay's puts MSG on the least healthy, most calorie-dense, oil-saturated things possible. And then you're like, oh, it has MSG in it. That's going to make me unhealthy, make me fat, make me whatever. No, put MSG on your broccoli. But Frito-Lay's isn't trying to sell you fresh broccoli with MSG on it. They're trying to sell you corn and soy meal into different shapes with different taco seasonings with MSG on it.
That is a tangent and a half, but it hits the nail.
But
And here's the thing that I'll tell you why this sticks with me. And the reason we're going to get to this in just a minute.
I'm really mad about it. Like and subscribe.
Sorry. I think that why this gets to be and why we'll get to this in the sense of why I think this is an important discussion. Because anytime I get caught up in this stuff, and I had friends that wrote things and I've looked online and I'm attached to some people that actually live in Minnesota. So like I have personal connections to some of this stuff. So it's not just me caught in the algorithm. But here's why, and here's what convicted me to think about this. And I haven't even told you this yet. But I'm a person, I don't think I'm anything special. I don't know if it's just something in me, if it's something I was taught, if it's just I see red. But if I see a woman being taken advantage of, beaten, or in public that I do not know, being talked down to, or even physically, I would say pushed or in any way intimidated, I can't handle it. Like I have something, and I'm not even a fighter, and I'm just naturally just kind of like, that is not okay. And I feel like the internet knows that. And I get stuff in my internet, all in my algorithm and stuff that will rage bait me in that way. And it's as if I'm standing on the corner of a street, and instead of being in front of someone that's actually doing it face to face, it's a video that's from 3 years ago that I can't go and change, that I don't know the people's names.
You're way too late.
I'm not, and yet I get the same visceral response of like, I want to step in and help, and how dare that happen, and like I need to know, and yet I can't tell my brain the difference sometimes. I can't. And it's not that I don't care about that woman, or I want to help teach that man how to do the right thing or whatever, but it just catches me. And I just realize I'm getting drug away. Like my attention, my effort, and it's not towards a healthy thing, but it's for views. It's for engagement.
It doesn't help you help that person.
No,
it helps you give advertising dollars to a corporation somewhere.
And it's not necessarily it's not necessarily that nothing of awareness is good. It's just that awareness to awareness, that is a commodity. That getting your eyes. And so why this is important is because I think even though Jesus didn't have algorithms digitally. I think there are cultural algorithms of attention that have been present for millennia. What I mean by that is whatever the pressing issue that is being culturally circulated, that is being demanding of your attention and response, has not changed in its ability to manipulate and cause people sometimes to overengage or overstimulate or be dramatic about what's going on, while not devaluing what's going on.
Yeah. So we were talking about this earlier, and one of the things we wanted to say about Jesus and politics is, as much as your favorite political pundit may have told you otherwise, Jesus almost
voraciously,
he strongly opposed partisanism.
Yeah.
So the way that what we just talked about with your algorithm, they want you to feel anger and fear. They want you to feel whatever and not be able to do anything about it except for scroll to the next one and get another hit of that. Mm-hmm. And through that, they want you to pick a side. Yeah. There is a right side and a wrong side. So whether they're dumping fuel on the fire of the bad stuff of the other side, so therefore you should come to the safe side over here, or they're virtue signaling and look how good we are, and actually they're evil, we're the good guys, we're doing all this good stuff, whatever. There is no single side anywhere in any political candidate, any like political side, branch, whatever.
Yeah.
Any political organization, any government organization that is 100% like on Jesus' side. And so you are being caught into pick this side or that side. And Jesus had that same experience
over and over and over again.
So people will use the Bible sometimes. They'll be like, hey, obey the government. Usually they're saying this when their party's in power, or their party is the one in power in a situation. So if you're generally by the algorithm favorable to ICE, you'll want to be like, well, what'd that guy do? Mm-hmm. And generally, if you're not, you'll be like, ICE was evil. Everybody there is a Nazi or whatever. Say some inflammatory stuff that could be true or could be not true.
Yeah.
But you have this predisposition to be for or against something because you're already on a side. Yeah. Jesus... So some people use Romans 13, just obey the government. They're doing a good job, I guess, because God put them there, so they can't be wrong. Or you'll go the other side. Hey, Jesus was executed by the government. The government is evil. The government, finger quotes, as if we're talking about a nation that existed 2,000 years ago. But we're talking about us. The government is evil. The government can never be good. They'll only kill God's people. We got to stand against them. We got to whatever. You're just kind of putting yourself into factions that when you look at Jesus himself, he violently, not violently like hitting people, but like he ferociously opposed being stuck into one side or the other. He had his own side, and as squishy and centrist as that sounds, it's literally correct.
It is. And here's the reason we were talking about this earlier, is because Jesus's political party stands above all others.
Yeah.
And he cannot be leveraged for one. There's a famous sermon that Andy Stanley gave, and whether you like Andy Stanley or not, it was at the end of 2020, right before the election. Yeah. And he said, the cross does not carry blue or red. And it just meant that like the cross doesn't need propped up or to carry a political party. It stands above.
Yeah.
And he just talked about how like the Christian world view that came apart in the first century did not tear down Rome. It outlived it.
Yeah.
It did not demolish Rome, even though Rome was a very non-religious, it didn't do that. It outlived it. And in fact, outlived it to a level that it was almost more assimilated into Christianity, Christianity than it was ever obliterated.
Yeah.
And so
I'm going to reference two books.
Yeah.
I'm throwing these in here, and Trevor's never heard of them, and I care about them a lot, even though I haven't read them.
I like one of the authors. I know Mark pretty well.
I've heard interviews from both authors on both books.
Okay.
I have a good idea of
Sky Jatani's another one great if you ever want to listen to somebody.
So the two books, and I'm going to try to reference these at the end if I remember.
Yeah.
There's an Old Testament and a New Testament one. The New Testament one is Mark Moore, Kenotic Politics. Ooh, can I go up and see the subtitle? Kenotic Politics, the reconfiguration of power in Jesus' political praxis, or praxis. I don't know how to say that.
That's a Greek word.
If you don't know, also kenosis, kenotic. Kenosis is the word, I think it's in the Philippians too, didn't consider himself equality with God something to be grasped, but he emptied himself, kenosis, to empty yourself.
Wow.
Or to give yourself away. So Mark talks in this book almost exclusively about Jesus, but he's a Jew, so he probably references the Old Testament a bunch. He talks about how Jesus reconfigures power and political power, not to be a status or an office or a thing, but to be something perpetually given away. That Jesus isn't worried about proclaiming his politics. He's worried about embodying his politics. Ooh. He's not worried about, on the algorithm, convincing you that you'll be good if you give to the poor.
If you didn't
and if
hear
you do
anything
whatever.
else you say, hear that. If you're not, that's so good, Ryan.
It's him saying, just go freaking do it. Mm-hmm. Just go take care of the poor and the widow. And we'll talk more about the quartet of the vulnerable here in a minute.
Yeah.
But it's a very harsh restructuring of political power where it is not something to be sought at the top and influence, but something to be given away always.
There's a great line from Lord of the Rings, and my kids have been watching through them for the first time. We bought them.
Nice.
I know. I didn't make them
They're finally growing up.
Oh, my gosh. I didn't make them do the extended editions for the first time because they were 3 hours, and I was 4 hours if you get the extended edition. But we're just going to do the 3-hour version.
Yeah, that's as long as it can ever be.
But there's a line about the hobbits. Do you remember? Saruman thinks that all... Saruman, sorry. I get that confused because they keep asking me and I keep getting confused. He thinks that all influence and change comes through great sources of power.
Yeah.
And when Gandalf is asked why Frodo, why is this, why are they being used? And he's like, I actually believe it's the smallest people that do the things right daily, that make the smallest choices to oppose the darkness. That is what holds it at bay.
Yeah.
And what you can think that means is that I need to stand up on the algorithm and then I need to declare it on top of Mordor.
Yeah.
Right? But what he's saying is every small choice that Frodo makes all the way to Mordor, his whole journey of life, is what leads him to having the massive change at the end. It's what you said. He embodies the defeat of the enemy.
Yeah.
He embodies it the entire journey. He doesn't just want one moment where he declares. He goes, no, I'm going to do this the whole time. And he brings his friends. Anyway, so it's just that beautiful thing of he's embodying what he wants to see change, but he's not doing that just when he gets to Mordor, when he has the perfect choice. He's doing it when he's miles and miles away with no hope.
Yeah. So for instance, I'm going to say this, and I don't want anyone to hear this as a total validation of this person's character. I really know very little about him. But in the most recent ice shooting with Alex, whatever, my understanding, again, don't care about the details.
Yeah.
Do not at all. My understanding is that he got himself involved in the situation because he saw a woman pushed to the ground.
Yeah.
That is kenotic politics. That is, I'm going to empty and sacrifice myself to do whatever. Again, I don't know his motives. I don't know his background. I don't know the situation once he got involved. I don't know, and I don't care, and I don't want to talk about it. But he put himself in harm's way for the benefit of another. That's emptying of yourself, giving yourself away.
Yeah.
Politics. Now, what I want you to hear is that him putting himself in danger was kenotic politics. What I do not want you to hear, and what I do not mean, is him being violent to the other people is kenotic politics.
Yeah.
That's all of a sudden power again. Not saying it's evil necessarily, but like the whole point is to put yourself in harm's way in place of somebody weaker or more vulnerable, even just weaker because they're already on the ground or whatever.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the full extent of what I'm trying to say, is that emptying yourself, giving yourself away, giving the shirt off your own back, not stealing the shirt off of somebody else's or whatever, but to give it to somebody, but literally just giving up of yourself is
so
that idea in it.
I love the thought process too of if it doesn't cost you something, it may not be worth your conviction. So if something doesn't necessarily take some sort of sacrifice or cost, and I said this earlier, one of the things Jesus wasn't afraid to do was disappoint every side. When he came in contact with the religious versus the Roman, when he came in contact with different fractions inside Judaism, where he used with the Pharisees and the Sadducees or the Zealots, he never was afraid to say the truth with love that disappointed all three, both sides, or even confused everyone.
Yeah, he all the time was talking about the kingdom of God is at hand.
Yep.
And then here's what the kingdom of God is about. He's kind of declaring that as his party. And so the Romans knew that's not us. But some of the religious leaders were like, that's us. So then why don't you do this on the Sabbath? And he's like, the kingdom of God. And slowly they're realizing, wait, he's not one of us in the exact sense we're hoping for.
Yeah.
We assume God's on our side, but he seems to know that God is on his side, and we're kind of confused about it. And offended.
There's a reason why John says, and he came into the world and the world did not know him. And they didn't understand him. And even the brilliance of the world, they stood stumped by him, basically. The concept is like he humbles the proud because the proud assume they get it right.
Corinthians 1.
So there's a level of this too that it's going to feel, especially when you're trying to stay Christ-centered, like you're going to make someone mad, regardless of what side you choose. And then on top of that, it's not intentionally doing that, but it's trying to stand with that kingdom of God, with Jesus, and it's conviction over condemnation. And what I mean by that is like, we can condemn what is wrong, but God holds no condemnation in 8 while fully holding Romans 8, while fully holding us condemned by sin.
Yeah.
Like there's a tension in that we live in.
And I'm going to bring this up one more time, maybe 10 more after this. A good example of this, like, resistance to partisanship in politics. What I mean by partisan is you have to pick one of the two major sides or one of the major sides, whatever. So in Jesus' day, are you for the Romans and therefore a traitor to your own group? Are you a zealot? Are you ready to kill the opponent for your own group? Are you a Pharisee or with the Pharisees?
Yeah.
Where you think religious observance God will beat up the Romans and whatever. There's these major kind of parties and you subscribe to one of them. Jesus kind of cleverly avoided like totally submitting to one of those things. I think a good example of that today, not perfect. Don't take every strand that is connected
we're
to this.
We're just talking through this. We're walking through it too. And I know you are too if you're paying attention to this.
But I think a good example of this, and this could lead a little more into the Old Testament side, is the Catholic Church and their political stances today. Yep. Where do they agree with generally the right and conservatives? Well, they agree on marriage and sexuality. They agree on abortion.
The sanctity of life.
Sanctity of life, sanctity of marriage. Where do they agree with the left? Taking care of the quartet of the vulnerable and generally all people. I've mentioned that. Let me define it right now.
Yeah, define that real quick because I think I remember, but I don't remember.
The Old Testament talks a lot. Let me see if I can.
It's the foreigner, the widow,
the orphan, and the oppressed.
The oppressed. There you go.
Maybe the slave. There's 4 of them. And I'll find it one of these days. Anyway, but the Old Testament talks a lot about this and how if you think that the United States cannot be a Christian nation or should not be or it isn't and it can't be or whatever, any combination of that, you're kind of right. If you think that we are and we have to be, you could be kind of right. But there are themes drawn from the Old Testament that can apply to this. So, of course, in the Old Testament, God has all people together, and then he loses them through sin. They create a barrier through sin, and then he picks a guy, and out of that guy, he raises up a family, and out of that family raises up a nation, the nation of Israel, God's chosen people, God's own nation.
Yep.
That sounds pretty political.
Yep.
It is an organization of people with hierarchy and government and all that kind of stuff and roles and whatever. God is understood to be the leader the whole time. Only about halfway into their history or so do they get a king, which God's not happy about.
Doesn't really want to do it.
Kind of lets it go, but is very clear. Hey, the king is under my authority and leadership. Okay, over the whole Old Testament, how does God talk about politics? It's from, this is the other book I was going to mention, Christopher J.H. Wright, I think, Old Testament Ethics for the People of God. Super good book. Really smart guy. Both of these books are somebody's PhD thesis.
Okay.
So just know that going into it. Watch the interviews instead of reading the book if you're like, I don't know. But he talks about Old Testament politics and how this isn't a prescription for every nation across the earth. It was kind of an experiment. But you watch how God thinks about politics. as you're watching how this nation goes through it. What does God care about? Well, in their religious festivals and rituals and things like that, a lot of the stuff built into that is economic and caring for the poor and the weak, the quartet of the vulnerable. And so you think about the year of the Sabbath. What am I thinking of? Not the year of Jubilee, which is every 50 years, but every 7 years.
Tabernacle. No,
I'm really gonna mess this up. If you are wondering what I'm talking about, I can't remember the name.
It's every 7 years. I know what you're talking about.
Oh my gosh, I hope I don't mess this up real bad. Let me scroll up on my notes and look at this. 1 second. I gotta zoom in.
As he goes over there and looks at this, I just want you to know I'm going to walk through some of the most political opposition that Jesus walks through in just a minute. I want to go category by category with you because I think there's a temptation to think that Jesus was not in a political climate that was stressful in any way or had tension. And in fact, one of my good friends, his name's Braden Etchinson, posted on Facebook about Matthew 11. If you want to know that, you can ask me about it, put it in the comments, I can tag it. But he just talked about Matthew 11 is about John the Baptist being tired, and he has opposed Herod, one of the, I would say, political puppets of the Roman kingdom, and has not gone well. He's in prison, and even though he's baptized Jesus, even though Jesus has told him he's the one, he still asks, "Are you the one?" And it's like this weird moment of like realizing that the weight of the world has brought doubt on the one that Jesus said was the closest to living as Adam was intended to anyone born of man.
Yeah.
And he still has the weight of the world on his shoulders. And eventually is actually going to lose his head for it. And that's where Matthew chooses to insert Jesus's line, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened." And it's such a beautiful, Braden did such a good job of just talking about, as a Christian, I feel that tension of just sitting in the weight of sometimes of what we know, regardless if it's the current situation or me being almost alive for 42 years and feeling everything from a president betraying a nation in 92 to towers falling, to feeling a war that feels unjustified, to having things occur that a housing market collapses, to having a worldwide pandemic that we never truly feel like we completely understood what happened. And many of us have different narratives of what we think happened, to now having economic crisis and wars around the world. I think there's a level of like, I feel the weight of that. Yeah. Where I just kind of go, what do we do?
Yeah.
So I know I don't know what it's called. Year of.
Okay. I'm gonna get back to that point.
Yeah.
I'm gonna lead back to that point. So the Old Testament for the ethics for the people of God. Here's kind of his thought process summarizing the Old Testament ethics and how that can apply today. Politics is inescapable because Yahweh is king. King is a political office. And kind of what that means is like Yahweh, the God of the Old Testament, God the Father, all the same guy. He is in charge of, he's sovereign over, he's reigning over the land, the law, the economy, and national life. The economy part leads to this idea that actually the land, property, and wealth and all that stuff belongs to God. Israel is just a tenant. They're just renting, kind of. They're not the owners. And wealth is a gift with social responsibility. That's a good summary of Old Testament economic law.
Do you know what we call that? The modern day Dave Ramsey?
Yep.
That's what it's
called. Put it in an envelope.
No. It just means that what you have one day won't be yours.
Yes.
And you inherited it from someone else that wasn't theirs forever. Right? So it's the Dave Ramsey effect. You're just stewarding what comes through your hands.
Yeah.
And that's you don't have to like Dave Ramsey to understand that that's just the way the world works, and it's defined by you die twice. The first time is when you die, the second time is the last person that remembers you. Yeah. Right? And that's the thought process of we are all, grass or sand or dust or whatever you want to call it, mist in the wind, that without a political position, you're still, regardless of your political position, you're still going to end up part of the dirt.
So with the economic thing, they're just tenants. Wealth is a gift with social responsibility. So the things that God instituted to help limit and share wealth, this is not just communism. The thing that God instituted are the Sabbath, where you don't do work and everybody shares so that you can live and eat for that whole day. the year of Jubilee, every 49 or every 50th year, every 7 sevens.
Yep.
All slaves are freed, all debts are forgiven. You watch it, you never really see Israel do it. You just hear that they're commanded to do it.
Yep.
And maybe they forget about it. God's kind of mad.
I don't remember what year it is. We'll have to try it again next year.
It's year 1,
yeah,
isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's year 1 again after last year 1.
Yep.
But then, a like every 7-year debt release for slaves and stuff like that. Even gleaning laws.
Yeah.
How if you have a field, you watch Jesus do this.
Ruth,
if
Boaz.
you have a field, Ruth and Boaz, that wheat or barley or whatever, you can kind of just eat that. So you're sowing this field and you harvest it and whatever, but the corners, outside edges, whatever, are meant to be gleaned from.
It's literally just leaving the edges of your fields for those that need it.
Leave the crust.
Leave the crust. It's exactly that's how it was taught to me.
So all of that is put there in Old Testament law to limit power. This is not free market capitalism in God's economy. It's there to limit power, not entrench it.
But again, it's driven by the human heart, not by it's not necessarily a political party.
What I mean by free market capitalism is God isn't interested in you gaining as much wealth and avoiding as many taxes and everything as possible. God is interested in you stewarding that money as a tenant because it all actually belongs to God, as well as you can, and taking care of your neighbor and whatever. If it was yours, then it's yours. And Jesus talks about that. Give to Caesar what is Caesar's. Give to God what is God's.
Absolutely.
Everything is God's.
Yep.
And actually, the things Caesar owns are only delegated to him by God.
Your soul is the only thing that's everlasting. So give to Caesar what only lasts for a little while, but give to God what lasts forever. That's the whole point of that.
So laws exist to limit that power because God owns it all. And you don't own anything. You're just kind of holding on to it. You're a tenant. You're a steward.
It's sand, right? The harder you hold on to it, the more it slips through your fingers.
And then justice is measured by how the poor, immigrant, widow, and orphan, the quartet of the vulnerable, how they fare. Are they starving while you're fat and happy? That's unjust in God's economy. These are all God's children. And some siblings are keeping all the food and others are leaving others to starve. And then property rights are real, but relativized by God's ownership of the land. So like in Old Testament economics and law and whatever, you can look more into this. There's a great 1.5 interview on a channel called Disciple Dojo. That guy does jujitsu and has a master's in theology from...
Jesus Juke.
Fuller.
He's a professional Jesus Juker.
Gordon Conwell. There we go. Yep. He'll Jesus
Kung Fu you.
Yeah. Those are different. Anyway, he has a great interview with him talking about the whole like scope and overall themes and whatever of Old Testament economic and justice law and whatever. But the things that make God the most mad are when I have one more thing to say about this. The things that make God the most mad are when you hoard your stuff and the weak and the oppressed and the vulnerable and the outcast and the widow and the foreigner and the orphan are all like squashed and stepped on.
And this is why this is so tough, because I'm going to bring this back to what I talked about, where I feel like I'm on the street corner and I'm watching people do things that I would never let stand if they were right next to me, right? But because of the screen or the algorithm or whatever you want to call it, I'm watching injustice, but yet I have no change. But what happens is if you're not careful, you will allow your effort, which we read this, right? The future you will thank you. Your willpower and your effort is a muscle. Yeah. And you will allow it to all be dumped out on things that you have no influence to change. And then when the moments that actually pop up in your life that actually have a chance to impact around you, you will have used all of your frustration up, all of your conviction up, all of your heart up by looking at non-tangible ways to help. Yeah. And in that moment, you will have what's crazy is this is how the opposite side of Jesus works. They take what seems to be a good reaction to something unjust and they steal your action in the real world because they steal your effort. Here's what I'll say, and we need to wrap this up, and maybe we need to do part 2, and we could possibly do that with maybe more of a deep dive into an actual scenario of where Jesus deals with this.
Yes,
because I want to try to set you up to actually see. But here's what I'll give you a little preview. All right, ready? There's 4 or 5 different political parties when Jesus comes in, and you can add if you have one extra. Okay.
Yeah.
Pharisees are the first one. The law is not being upheld. He's not following enough. Jesus comes in and says, you've heard it said. And he goes further than the law. So even though the Pharisees are mad, he goes, no, you're not even doing enough. Sadducees don't believe in resurrection. And so Jesus's whole idea that he's going to bring new birth through the resurrection goes against their theology. And so he has to make them mad by basically saying, you can't experience this full kingdom without believing in the resurrection. So you have to change your theological view and understanding of me in order to even get. Then he bumps up against the Romans, right? And the Romans, they are in charge and they just want him to submit. The problem is the king don't submit to the servants. The creation does not command the creator, and so he can't do that. But he does submit to their authority on earth. That's why when he submits to Pilate, Pilate's like, I don't see any guilt with you. And he's like, it's all right. I know this is your job. Yeah. And he allows him to do it. The zealots who want to throw Rome out, they're not violent enough. He's not violent enough. He's not coming in with swords. In fact, Peter tries. He's like, no, that's not my way. But he subjects himself to one of the worst tortures of all time, allowing his body to be beaten and to be abused, even to the point of death. And he allows that violent act to be the thing that separates death from life. And it absolutely brings the Gentiles who are standing, maybe naive, maybe not, with a hedonistic lifestyle that says, you don't offer enough. What you're offering is not enough, and I don't want to follow you. He stands and he says, I'm the bread of life. I am the water that will never run dry. In fact, if you come to me, I will give you life to the full that you've been looking for your entire life. And those are the things that he's still doing today, whether those are the same political positions or different. You have to look deeper to what Jesus would respond with. And he's not creating a they and us or us and them. He's creating a kingdom and he's inviting all to it.
Yep.
Truth and grace.
One last thing that I hope doesn't throw a wrench in all this.
We're doing another episode. We can catch it if we need to.
I'm going to throw it in here real quick. You may be tempted to think, or you may have heard from the Bible, people talking about summarizing the Bible. God doesn't judge groups. He just judges individuals on their own actions. And so it's okay that this or that politician or political entity or whatever is like not great in this area, or you can't judge all of whatever. Anyway, in the Old Testament, also in the New Testament, but tons in the Old Testament, nations are judged. I'm judging Israel. God is judging Israel because of their sin, and he's going to use Babylon to execute that judgment on them. And then God is going to judge Babylon later for their egregious sins, and he's going to use whatever against them. And God judged Sodom and Gomorrah and cast fire down on them. You would think, based on Genesis 19-ish, that he cast fire down on them because of their sexual immorality. Actually, it was how they were unwelcoming to the foreigner.
Not welcoming the poor and the foreigner.
Dehumanizing and seeing what they could wrench out of foreigners and not being hospitable to them. And for that, God cast down fire. Not because of just the people who committed the sin, but everybody was chill with it. And their government was chill with it. And so don't think that no, government doesn't have to obey the same ethical laws that Christians should. If you're a Christian, you should want the government to humanize everybody, even if criminals are still convicted of crimes by an unbiased jury and sent to prison to serve their punishment or whatever. Even if people have entered the country illegally and based on that, they should be deported based on the law or whatever. But at no point did Jesus not die for any of those people. Either the people who that's happening against or the people who are executing that judgment or whatever. And so everybody's bound to the same ethical standard for Christians. And you should be humanizing people. And if you're not, you're in trouble.
And that's where I said earlier, two things can be true at the same time. Yeah. You can deeply love that you're born into a country that has as much opportunity and incredible things, infrastructure, freedom, all of that. But you also can hold true that can be exploited and that can be taken advantage of, and that can have moments where it doesn't fall right. And I would tell you it's because, and Ryan and I have talked about this off camera, and I'll tell you on screen, the human condition has not changed. The heart of the person that's in charge, whether it be in America or in a foreign country, still determines their actions and how they live out. And each person will be held accountable. One of my favorite examples of this is Daniel, when he is captured in Babylon. And he's now being renamed, which his name doesn't stick, which is hilarious. Yeah. And he's coming to the king, and you would think King Nebuchadnezzar, you would think that he would demand, hey, I want to eat something different. Mm-hmm. But he asked for permission in front of Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah.
And it's wild that in this place of captivity, you would think wants to show defiance and like faith in God. But he comes with humility, grace, and respect to the king, but with a divine hope and a divine understanding. That is the way we approach this. We don't demand they listen to Jesus, but we have to appropriately ask, would you consider Jesus? Would you be considerate to the idea that this is the way that we should live? Listen, we don't demand obedience out of people.
Yeah.
We don't demand them change. Jesus didn't. But he did sit in silence sometimes when people didn't give the right answer. He did sit opposed to people when they said the right answer. I would clarify
that you do demand obedience, or at least like a higher standard for teachers and leaders and people like that.
Yeah.
But you want to woo people over to obedience and love of the Lord. Otherwise, so like, what was it, 1 Timothy? You shouldn't desire to be a teacher because they'll be judged more strictly. And all the times that he's like, hey, this guy's a false teacher, throw them out.
Yeah.
They're going to corrupt everybody else. Like, there's grace for everybody, but also don't just tolerate people, especially leaders.
Again, though, he says like, leave space for God's judgment. Yeah. That's my whole point, is like, Jesus didn't go to the Pharisees and go, this is what you need to change. And then they didn't listen and go, well, you're struck down. I'll move on. Like, we don't get to do that. Like, that's not how it works. We get to go with our conviction, invite them into Jesus, and then leave them to God. If they're not going to change, like, we don't get to draw the sword and just murder. Like, that's just not how it works. And I think there is a level of, I get it. There's a level of like wanting to be a patriot and wanting to stand up for what is right and defending the person on the street corner that's doing something wrong. That absolutely in action takes a moment of stepping in. But I think online with an algorithm is so far from letting your words and your tone poorly translate into an invitation into Jesus. And so what I would tell you is, in the moments of online engagement, do not let those steal the real life engagement opportunities that you have to live out what you believe is not only politically correct for kingdom, but also the best benefit for the nation you live in. Yeah. And so if we can do that, we'll be done. We'll do another case study on this because I think there's more to it. Thanks so much for listening. I hope this was helpful in a conversation. Please come and talk to us. Ryan and I don't, I think, even completely stand on the same size a lot of stuff for this. We're close, but I think that's what's so fun about these conversations is he brings his convictions, I bring mine. We have the heart of Jesus at the center.
And we see who's right.
We're trying to work it out in fear and trembling.
So what we want you to do is comment below who partisan between me and Trevor. Who won? Who's right? No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, leave a comment if you want to. If you're risky enough to, like and subscribe if you want to. Hey, send this to somebody that you want to just have a discussion with or bring into the debate. And leave a review if you're watching on the podcast app. And stay tuned for part 2. I think it'll be a helpful discussion. Ryan, any closing thoughts or anything?
I think I said everything.
Oh, we got it all. Well, we'll get any addendums we need in the next
one. We'll put all our corrections.
We'll link those books. We'll link the books and maybe even the podcast, the Dojo one. If you want to check it out. Also, the Holy Post has a bunch of stuff with Kai Jitani. It can be a little bit edgy, but I love it because even edgy stuff demands your paying attention and sifting through sometimes. So it's a little good, and I enjoy Sky a lot. So hey, as always, have a great and glorious day in the Lord, and we'll see you later.
See ya.